Yeah, good morning, guys. So let us get started. So yeah, so we were facing some problem yesterday, right? So guys, that simple mistake we have done yesterday. So whenever I am doing, see here, what I am doing from service control one controller, I am going to the service two. Okay, and then I have mentioned here REST template dot get. See, instead of mentioning the local host and IP, I have provided the Spring application name. After that, what is this? It's a request mapping, correct? Either it's a get mapping or post mapping, whatever it is. Since I'm using a get, it should be get, correct? Now, this should be a, in the service to controller, can I say it should be a request mapping, not the REST controller? If you remember yesterday, I have added like this, correct? To this REST controller itself, I have added. This is wrong, right? I have to use a request mapping or get mapping or post mapping. Am I right? So that's the silliest mistake that we have done. Now, never mind. So I have created, so in order to rectify that, I was not able to see. If the problem with this code, right, if the code is already there, you will not be able to identify. So what I have done, similarly, I have created two other services, service A and then service B. Okay. Now, this time I have used a different Spring version, like 2.7.5. Now I have, you look at here, I have created one controller called service A controller. Okay. Now look at here, at the rate REST controller. I have one method called get details, and I wanted to pass one data. And from this service one controller, I want to call some other microservice. Now earlier, without using a service discovery, can I say I used to I have to provide the what you call local host and then the port number. Am I right? But here with the service discovery, am I writing the port number? No, automatically the load balance will happen. Okay. Now look at here. There is a service B, other service name. What is the service B? Service B is another Spring application. Look at here. Service B and another Spring application. Okay. Now, let me close all of this. Okay. Service A from service A control, service B, okay. Service A controller. So service A controller, I am calling the service and response. Service B means I'm going to the service B. Now let's go in the service B. I have a controller called service B. Look at here. Earlier in this project also I have done the same mistake. Like I've added the endpoint to the REST controller. We should add separately like this, correct? Like I have to use a request mapping or get mapping or post mapping. That's a mistake I've done. Okay. Now service. And then what is the endpoint here? Response. And what is this in the brackets? In the Spring Boot, you can say any runtime value, you can accept it like this. And now this has to be accepted as a path variable since it's a get mapping. Now, whatever the data you are returning, giving, I'm returning the data. Now here, I'm calling that method response, and then I'm returning the same data, whatever it is passed. Now I just started the server. Now let me show you that. If I look at, if you look at here, service A, service B, it is deployed. Service from service A, I'm hitting service B, correct? Now, what is the port number for service A? Let's look at here. What is the Spring application name? Service A. What is the port number? 8087. Yes. Now let's go here. Okay. Localhost 8087, correct? Done. Now after that, in the service A, what is the endpoint I want to hit? This is a get details method, correct? Now copy this get details and then pass the data. Now look at here. Okay, let me create the URL first. The localhost 8087. Localhost 8087. Okay. After that, what is the endpoint I want to hit? In the service A, this is the endpoint I want to hit. Get details. Yeah, get details. Followed by, what is this meaning of brackets, right? It's a variable that runtime data you want to pass it. Now, what is the data I will pass? I will pass 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, something. Okay. Now, can I say this is my URL? Yes. Copy it. And when I hit it, it has to come here. From here, it has to go to the service B. And service B, where it will go? It will go to the endpoint in which you mentioned service. No, that means this is the endpoint it will go. And here what you are returning, whatever the data you passed, that you are returning that. So that means I should get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as an output. Now let us run this. Am I getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6? Yes. Let me change it to hello. Am I getting hello? Yes. Hi. So that means am I able to hit the service without a name? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is about a service discovery. The only this is one more annotation we need to add at the rate load balance. And these are the two things that we forgot yesterday is I was concentrating on writing the endpoint on the REST controller. That is wrong. I have to use a request mapping or get mapping or post mapping. Unknowingly I have done that. So that's a mistake. So I was not like, since it's a annotation, right? I was not paying attention. So I've done multiple projects and then at the end I could figure it out. And then we need to add the at the rate load balanced annotation. Now, if you look at the code service A, did I write the local host or port number, anything? No, I'm just writing the Spring application name. So if you look at here, Spring application name, where this is getting listened in the Eureka, correct? Yeah, it's application name. And this application I can instantiate in a different one more port also. Yesterday I have shown you, right? If I want to run this service B in one more port, how can I do? How can I run service B in one more port? Like 8092 port number I want to run. How can I do?
Change the run configuration.
Yeah. What is the thing I need to pass?
Server port or new server port.
Yeah. -D server port, correct?
In virtual number.
Right click in the virtual arguments. I have to create application and then here -D server port equal to the port number I will give.
Yes.
So this is how you can do through the Eclipse. You can do using the command prompt also. We have some Maven commands, right? Maven.build like that. You can
Yes.
pass this argument also through Maven and you can run it. Okay. Now the advantage of a service discovery or service registry is, so you are not whenever you are hitting the service, am I mentioning any port number or anything? No. Now let's go to the definition of service discovery or service registry. Yeah. Look at here. Service discovery pattern is used in microservice architecture to locate and discover the other microservices in a distributed system. So are you writing any? That means automatically it is trying to find where it is. In order to find how it is doing, so this is this get REST template is trying to call the Eureka server. So Eureka server will tell you where that service is located by looking. So in your REST template, you will provide the Spring application name. By looking at the Spring application name, that Spring application can be deployed into one port or multiple ports, like multiple instances. Then who will do the who will tell you that where the service is located? So whenever the request comes, this Eureka server will tell you, hey, service B is located at 8086 port number or 8087. Like this service B is deployed on multiple port number. And then it will do the load balancing also automatically. So that's the beauty of the naming server or discovery service. One of the example is Eureka server. Any questions? Just a minute. Laddu. Move. Any questions, anyone?
Sir, that load balancing annotation, can you explain that?
Yeah, the load balancing annotation means here. So here, see here, assume that service B, we have added 3 port numbers. Like I have deployed in 8086, 8092, 8093. Okay. Now, why are you going for multiple instances? Whenever there is a load, you will make that Spring application into multiple instances. So that like all the requests will not be routed to one service. It will go into other services also, correct? Now, whenever you have to do that, do you know whether the service is busy or should I route it to other service? Do you know that mechanism?
No.
No. By adding this annotation, automatically Spring Boot does that. By adding the load balanced annotation, Eureka server will take care of the what you call Load balance.
Load balancing.
Yeah.
Yeah, got it.
Okay. You can do it on your own also, but it's like no one will be. See, if you write a custom code for these kind of things, there may be a possibility of issue, right? Why are we going for some predefined applications or predefined things? Because they have looked at it very well and they have come up with all the permutations and combinations, and then the performance issue, all the issues will be resolved. So that's the reason they are providing, right?
Yeah, got it.
So this is about a service registry. Only mistake that we have done is so instead of, if you look at the yesterday video, you can see I have written the endpoint on the request controller, REST controller. But this is not right the correct way, right? Like this. Is it right? We have to use a get mapping or post mapping, right? If at all I want to put a endpoint to this controller. So that's the mistake we have done. Okay. Any questions, anyone on this?
Sir, here we passed only one data, sir. Last class you explained the username and password like that. We passed two values or more values. How we can pass, sir?
You can have one more variable also.
Slash open.
Yeah, slash, or you can have a collection also, right? Directly. See here, it's a, what is the data? It's a string object I took. Now I can pass the employee also. Now, for example, you are using this generally get mapping will take only one, correct? Generally.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, if you are using a post mapping, then how? Then can I say in the post mapping, can I say instead of path variable, I should use? See, these are the Spring Boot questions, right? Nothing related to microservices. Now, if I have to use a post mapping, so @request body, correct?
Request body.
Yeah. Request body. In the request body, for example, you are in the UI, whenever you are using an Angular or React, can you say that you will provide the ng model also, correct? Employee E. Okay. You don't need to provide anything here. So automatically, so if I do not have the class, so I am getting a compilation error. So here, whenever you are using a get mapping, then what should I call? It should be post mapping, correct? Post mapping. Now in the here, if you want to pass one more argument, do you know something about query parameters? Correct? Colon,
Yes.
double question mark something, right? Using the query parameters, you can pass multiple arguments to the get mapping, but generally get mapping people will use one. Okay, if you want more, then you have to go for a post mapping. In the get mapping, if you want to use more than one, you have to use the query parameters like this ampersand symbol, right? Ampersand symbol, and then pass the key and value pair. Here, whatever I pass, only one thing, correct? Now, if I have to use it, then if I have to use the post mapping, what should I do? Can I hit it? Can I create a post request through the website, Google Chrome, or through the browser? See, whenever I'm hitting, what does it mean? If I'm hitting, what is a request? Is it a get request or post request? What kind of a request?
Post.
Okay. Any other answers? By default, the request is get request, right?
Get request.
Yeah. So by default, it's a get request. So in the post, you need to provide the body, correct? Then can I say in order to do that, we go for a postman, right?
Yes.
In the postman, let me show you that. Postman is a software through which you can test your REST endpoints, right?
Yes.
Does anyone is using in your projects?
Yes.
Yes, sir. We tried this, sir.
Yeah. So in the postman, you have to have the get request, post request. Whenever it is a post request means what you are passing. See, whenever I'm clicking on I have a login form, I have a username, I have a password. And when I click on a login button, should I use a get request or post request?
Login from post request.
Why not get?
Because you are passing username and password in login form.
Okay.
It will
Then
be
what is the
visible in
problem?
URL.
Yeah. Anything that you added here, see here, if I'm creating a get request, all the data that you are entering in the form will be appended into the web URL, correct? so people will be able to see your password. That means it's a sensitivity issue, security issue. In order to overcome that, you will go for a post request. In the post request, you will provide the URL. Okay. Now let me give here. Let me copy this. By default, from the browser, whatever you're hitting, that will be considered as get request. Okay. Now let me keep it as a get. Now send. Okay. I think the server is down. Okay. No issues. Now here, if I want to create a post request, select post. And in the post, you have the body, correct? See, under this body, whatever you have to give the whatever the card number, like any data that you are giving, you have to give it in the JSON format. This will be taken as a object. Like here, whenever you're coming into the post mapping, you are using some request body, correct? So in this request body, this class should have all this field number, like field name is card number, card name, expiry, mode of payment, and CVV, like this. This field should be there automatically. Whatever the data that you entered here will be set to this one. Hope you understood, Babu.
Sir, understood. Clear, sir.
Yeah. So, I mean, like whatever till now I have shown you this one. Only thing is, only the reason is it's just a get request. So I'm hitting from the browser. If it is any other request, then you have to go for a postman. In the postman, you can set the data. Now, in the postman get also, you can set it. In the get also, you want to set something in the headers, you can set it. Why the headers is used? For authorization, right? Like authentication and authorization. What does it mean? JSON web token or OAuth. Then you have to use this authorization. If you want to set something in the get also body, you can do. But generally, get method does not use a body. Okay, it will use a raw parameters directly here. Okay.
Yes.
So now let's look at the second one, database per service. So now we have some other design pattern. Okay. So we have database per service. It is as simple as that. Every microservice. So generally, everyone thinks that we are converting the monolithic application into a microservice application. So whenever you are converting the monolithic into microservice application, so I have monolithic application and I'm converting it to a microservice that is using 5 microservices. It does not mean that all the 5 microservices should have only one database. No, every microservice should have its own database. So that is a simple design pattern saying that each and every microservice should have its own database. So that's the reason it is called as a database per service. Now, so here can I say here I have a service A and service B, correct? Look at here, service A and service B I have. Now, where did I do the change? Okay, let me restop it, the service A and service B, and start it. I'm stopping everything. Okay. Yeah, I'm just restarting the service A. Now, currently, do I have a database configured for any of these microservice?
No.
No. Okay. I'm starting the service B. Yeah, both the services are up and running. Okay, now let me go to the Eureka. Okay, now let me hit the endpoint. Yeah, I got the hello. Now, if I want to hit this through Postman, let's take here. Let me here. The get details is a method name, right? In the service A controller, service A controller. In the service A controller, look at here. What is the endpoint? Get details. And what is the data? There's a data I can pass anything, correct? So let me pass Karthik, hi, something. Now, the same thing I'm passing it to another service and then returning it. Now let's send. Yeah, could
Change the
not
method.
find.
Sir, change the method name. Post.
Yeah, sorry, good,
Yes,
thanks. Yeah, I could not get the response. Why? Invalid. Okay, authorization. It is like,
Authorization.
I don't need authorization. Okay, remove the authorization. Okay, now send. Yeah, am I getting a response? Correct. So let me change it here. I'm getting correct. This is how you can test it in the Postman. Okay. Now let us see the database per service. Now what I will do, guys. So currently service A and service B. Does this services have any database communication? No, I don't think, correct? Now, so here database service means every microservice should have its own database. Now, how can I configure a database for a service? Now, so you can configure Oracle, MySQL, MongoDB, Apache, Snowflake, Cassandra, anything you can configure it. But the thing is, if you are using those databases, you need to install the local version or you have to have a cloud version. So the best, installation and all will take time, and then there are some difficulties getting the licenses, everything. So the easiest way to understand the database is there is something called as a H2 database. Now let me create new other Spring Starter parent. Now I'll take service C, or else let me keep it as a service DB example. So in this one, I'm telling you how to connect to the H2 database and how to create a microservice with a database. That is nothing but a database per service. Each service should have its own database. Now next, I will select Spring Boot version 2.7.1, Eureka client, Spring Web, and apart from that, so I am using a H2 database. H2 database is called as a in-memory database. So you don't need to see if you want to use an Oracle database, you need to download the Oracle software and then install it, etc. If you want to use a MySQL, you have to download. If you are using a MongoDB, you have to download. But this H2 database is similar to the SQL database. This is called in-memory database. Do you guys know this already?
Yes, Karthik.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, fine. So now, so whenever you are using this H2 database, so if I generally, in order to communicate with the database, we have a JDBC concept. But here in the JDBC, the complexities, you have to write the queries, get the statement, etc. But Spring has made our life easy by providing the JPA. The JPA stands for Java Persistence API. So I'm adding the Spring Data JPA dependency also. So with these dependencies, I'm creating a project. Now, whatever the database you want to connect, so you have the application.properties, right? In that application.properties, you need to mention what is the username, what is the password, what is the host name. Now, similarly here for H2 database also, there are some username passwords. I will mention that. Okay. Now, so now let's make it as a, first of all, @enable discovery client, done. That means I went, so now let me go to the application dot. Now let us see, is there any, yeah, copy this here. Let me keep 8092 and Spring application name DB service. Let me keep it as a DB service. Okay, done. Now, so here, if you look at the pom.xml, you will have What are the things you have? Look at here. Spring Data JPA, Eureka client. Yeah, dependency version. Using the Spring Data JPA, we can connect it to the database. Now, I need to mention, I said that, let us see, H2 database, did it come? Yeah, there is one more dependency for H2 database is say com.h2 database. Okay. Now, in order to connect to this H2 database, I need to have the username password, correct? Now, let me give you that some properties. Yeah. Okay. So now let me copy this. Okay. Look at here. Spring H2 console enabled equal to true. That means you can see the console. I will show you that. So JDBC colon dot H2 dot memory dot dbcap. So mem is nothing but this is an in-memory database. Now what is say whenever you are if you go to your SQL developer in your project, you have one thing called URL. URL is nothing but what is the host name and then what are the username, what is the password, you are giving entire URL. So that is nothing but this one. Now driver name, if you are using a Oracle database, oracle.jdbc.odbc.oracle driver, correct? So for the H2, this is the driver name. And for this H2 database, the password is SA, username is SA, password is password. So these are dialect we are connecting. So these are the properties to be added whenever you are working with a H2 database. For example, if you are working with Oracle, then Oracle, what is the driver name for Oracle? Oracle? Oracle.jdbc.odbc.oracle driver. Username and password, the data username password that you have set. URL is nothing but where you have where your application is where your server is deployed. Okay. Now using this thing, I will be able to connect to the database. Now, so whenever you are querying, so now I'm using a JPA, correct? Now you guys tell me, how can I connect to the repository, or I want to execute something. I want to create one table called employee, and I want to get the data from the employee. How can I do in a Spring Boot application? How is the flow will happen in your project?
Create one controller.
First controller, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And now what is the name? Can you guys tell me any name?
My controller.
I could not hear.
My controller.
Okay. Instead of my controller.
Employee controller.
Yeah. Okay. Employee controller. Okay. So in the employee controller, you will make this as a REST endpoint, correct? So
Yes.
that others can look at it. Now, if you want to provide a request mapping, you can do, right? Request mapping followed by /employee, correct? Now, if you want to, so do you write the entire business logic in this?
No.
What do you do?
You can call endpoint only.
It's an endpoint only, correct? So public get EMP details. So this method will return the employee details, correct? Now, so the endpoint get mapping, and you will take the employee ID, correct? /EMP details followed by EMP ID. Okay. Now, can I say @path variable? Whenever you want to get an employee details, you want the employee ID, right?
Yes.
Bring EMP ID. Done. Okay. Now, so from here, where do you go?
Go to service.
Service, correct? Now, can I say that employee service I need to create first?
Yes.
employee service. In this employee service, it's a service, correct? So what is the annotation I should write?
Trade service.
@service. Okay, done. In this one, can I say I need to create a similar method like this?
Yes.
Yeah. Get employee details. Now here, I don't need a path variable directly. I will take a string employee ID. Done. Now from here, where should I go?
Let's go to the repository.
Repository, correct? Now can I
Yes.
say I have to create a
On
interface, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Employee
Repository.
repository. Okay, done. Now it should extend from
Data repository.
JPA repository or CURD repository, correct?
Yes.
Now, so what is the thing? See what it is accepting?
Is asking entity.
T is nothing but it's
another.
a table name employee.
Yes.
Now I have to create a class first of all, correct? Entity.
Yes.
Right? Let me create a class called employee. Now employee will have
ID.
Employee ID and
Private.
employee name something.
int ID, private string emp name. For time being only, let me take private double salary. Okay, done. Now I have to make this as an entity. How can I do? Entity, correct?
Yes.
Entity. Now I have to make this as an ID, unique value.
ID.
Yeah. I want to generate, then generated value something, correct? If I don't want, directly, right?
Yes.
Now, so whenever I say repository, in the repository, I have to mention the entity name, correct? Now, if the table name and entity name is different, can I say that here I have to mention table and then mention the different one? Okay. Now, what is this one?
The ID, the serial symbol or missing
String.
ID, normal. Yeah. It's
data type.
integer, capital integer.
Integer.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, done. Now here by default, can I say automatically I will get a find by, correct?
Yes.
Now, if I want to write a query, then what should I do? I have to create a class, implement this interface, and I have to write a @query parameter and then write, right? All those are Spring Boot, right? Now here in the service, if I want to use what I should do?
Auto
employee repository, employee emp repository @auto-void. Okay, and employee repository dot find by. Look at here. Did I write any of the method? No. Automatically it has come, correct? Find by employee ID. Now employee ID integer dot value of emp ID. Now can I say I will return? Return, let me put it as an employee. Correct? Done. Now
EMP ID, sorry.
So employee ID spelling.
Yeah, correct. Okay, it's okay. Dot get I will use.
So return option versus
If present. Okay, it will not return. Okay. If present p dot get method. Let me use the get method for timing. Okay. Yeah. So it is what it is telling is this find by method is returning an optional. From the optional, how can you get the data? By using a get method, right? So ideally, I have to use so first let me call the, like if I will insert through insert query, I will insert the data, not a problem. We can do the save method also. So those comes under the CORD operations. I'm not interested in that CORD operations because I just wanted to demonstrate on each service should have one database. That is a database per service design pattern. Now I have to call this service method from the, I have to auto-wire this, correct? In the controller. Yes or no?
Yeah.
employee service, EMP service @autowired. EMP service dot get EMP details, EMP ID. Done. And then return. Let me do employee. Okay, done. Now here, can I call this service from other service? Yes or no? This endpoint?
Yes.
Now, whenever, say, for example, this is currently, what is the application name? Service DB example. Now, if I want to call this endpoint from the service B, can I call?
Yes. Go.
Now, whenever I'm calling that, I have to use a REST template. Now, that means from one service to another service you are calling, but are you using a common database? No.
No.
The data will be picked up from this microservice database and it's returned as a endpoint. Right? I hope you understand, guys, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, okay, employee details, employee ID, yeah, everything is fine. This is fine. Now, let us go and see from service A.
Sir,
Let us call this.
please, once please open the employee service class implementation repository.
You want the repository?
Yes. Okay. Okay. Okay.
Automatically, the find by methods will come automatically because of the JPA.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Clear?
Yes.
Okay. Now, employee controller. Now, I want to call the, see, from service A. From service A already, see, in this, so in the get details, this is working, correct? Now, from this one, I want to call. What I want to call? Get employee details, correct? See, first I want to call the endpoint. And what is the class name? See, employee details, and data I will pass it. What is the application name here? Spring application name is this one, DB service, correct? So DB service, okay, done. Now get EMP details. Now let me put this one, okay? Now here, but what is the return type of this service? From the employee controller, what are you returning? Employee class. That means this employee is in which microservice? Employee class is present in different service, correct? Now that means in your service A also you should have a employee.java so that the data will be set. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah. Copy and put it in the service A. Yeah. Now go to employee.java. Now you don't need to have the entity and all because it's just a model, correct? You don't need to have the entity.
Yes.
When should I go for entity? Whenever it is my database data, then I have to go for entity, right? Okay,
Yes,
let me create a setters and getters here. In order to avoid the setters and getters, what should I use? Lambok, correct? Generate getters and setters, generate, and I can have default constructor as well. Source constructor using these fields. Okay, let me create a default constructor. Okay, now copy all these things to that. Okay, done. Now let's save this. Okay, now let's go to service A. Service A controller. Now, what is my return type? I'm getting, see, what is the data I'm passing? String object. Okay. So what is the return type I'm getting? Employee, correct? So employee.class. Done. Now here I'm passing. So what return? Employee. Now employee. Okay. Now can I say if I pass employee, then it will not print. Let us see what I will get the object. It should get a JSON object, right? Because REST controller means automatically it will convert the response into a JSON response. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes.
Now let us stop all the services and then restart the services. Even I am stopping the Eureka service also. Let it down. Yeah, it is down now. First, I am starting the Eureka service. Okay. Now let's go and start service A, service B, and service DB example. Let me close these two. Now let us see Eureka server is started. Yes, correct. No instances are available. Now let me start the service A. How can I start? Go to this service A and then run the application. Whenever you are running, you make sure that the port numbers are different. Yeah, service A has come. Port number is 8087. Now what is the service B? Let us see. Start it. Okay. Now it is started. Now let us run. See, service B has come. Now what I will do, I will go to the DB example. Now before that, let me see the endpoint. Sorry, port number. Yeah, it is different. Now let me start this service. Okay, this is Spring Boot application enable discovery client. So it should be registered with a Eureka. Okay, run as Java application. Okay. Yeah, I think it is done. Look at here. See, a DB service, all are up and running. Agree? Yeah. Now, first of all, let me show you. Do we have a data first of all? No. Now, in which out of these three services, which is having the JP H2 database 8092, correct? DB service. Now, local host 8092. Okay. Okay. Let me quickly Google it. I think I have to give -console. H2 -console. Let me try. Slash H2 -console. Yeah. Yes, correct. So here I have given the h2.console, guys. So I just wanted to show you that the database first. Now let me go to the properties. Here, what is the username?
Yes, sir.
What is the password? Password, correct? Let me give the password. And then try connect. Yeah, it has connected, right? Now. Now here, so look at here, employee table is there. But do I have the data into the employee table? Run.
No.
No. Now, how can I insert? Through application I can insert, but did I write the insertion code? No. So in order to test my getting the get employee details query, insert into table name, employee. What are the columns? ID, comma, EMP underscore name, comma,
Salary.
salary, correct? Now values. What is the employee ID? 1. Employee name is, let me give Karthik. Employee salaries, some 1 lakh. Okay. Now run. Insert table name. Okay. Insert into.
Insert into employee.
Okay, I think I don't need a table.
No need
Keyword.
to.
Yeah, no need table. Yeah. Okay, insert update count is 1. Let me commit, correct? Okay, now if I do select, I will get 1 record, correct? Now, so whenever I hit the end point, what is the ID I have to pass? 1, correct? So that I will get the data, right? Now, let us do that. Local host. Now let me create the endpoint first. Go to the notepad. Where is service A is deployed first of all? Service A is looking at port number 8087. To this, I am giving the input, correct? Under this, I am going to the service A controller. In this one, which endpoint I am calling? Get employee details, correct? So 8087 / get employee details / what it is expecting? Data means I will give 1. Now, can I say this is my URL? Yes. Now let me hit. See, am I getting the response? ID equal to 1, employee name equal to Karthik, salary equal to 1 lakh. Guys, are you clear? Now I want to add 1 more employee and see. See, similarly, I can do the insert code also, correct? Now here, let me create insert into 2. Let me take Ajay, so 20,000. Let me run. So if I give, so second, now I'll pass 2. I'll pass 2. See Ajay, correct? Now same thing, I will pass 2 through this one. Am I getting employee? See, I'm getting an employee object only in the JSON format. Who is converting that JSON format? Automatically this REST controller, correct? The work of a REST controller is by default, it will convert the object into a JSON format, right? Now, in this example, if you look at here, so what is the service that has taken a request? Service A, correct? But does this have a micro database? No. From here, you are calling another service. And this service DB example is another Spring application, which has a dedicated database, correct? So similarly, the work for you guys is, can you guys implement the, I will share the code. Can you guys implement the database connection for service A and service B? So then we have with 3 services. What does the service per design pattern is telling? Database per service, correct? That means each and every microservice should have its own database. So with that way, it will be satisfied, correct? Now, if you want to make this into this Spring service A, you want to change it. So first thing that you need to do, go to the form.xml. You need to add the annotations of dependencies of H2 database and Spring Data JPA. Am I right? And then you go to the application.properties. You need to provide the H2 database configuration. Now, H2 database also will be looking at different. Look at here. Whenever I'm hitting the H2 database, what is the port number I'm giving? Whichever the port where your microservice is deployed. Am I right? That means, can I say this, whatever the H2 database you are created, this is only for this microservice, correct? Now, if I take service A, it is listening at 8087. Now, if I do the H2 database there, if I want to load it, then can I say localhost 8087? That will be for service A only. Any questions?
So here can we use for service here, can we use MySQL database, sir?
Yes, you can use. Any
Okay.
database per service means For each and every microservice, you need to use a database. It does not mean that you have to use H2 only, you have to use MySQL. No. See, even microservices can be written in some other programming language also, correct?
Yes, sir.
So because how the microservice communication will happen? Through the JSON object only, right?
Yes, sir.
Whether you are writing in Python, whether you are writing in Java, whether you are writing in C++, the microservices can talk to each other because you are given with the endpoint, and that endpoint will take the request as a JSON object and will give the response as a JSON object, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So now the problem, why did I come to the H2 database is, if I have to do MySQL, can you simply do like this in MySQL database in one class? First of all, you need to have a MySQL download, correct? In order to do download, some easily you will not get, right? You need a license. Now, again, you need to buy the license and you need to install in local and make sure that your MySQL is running. Once it is running, then what you need to give? Only the change you need to do is in the application.properties, in terms wherever the H2 database details you are given, can I say here I need to modify the, right? Database URL, database driver name, username, password, this one. These 4 things I need to modify. Am I right? Babu?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you can use anything. So database per service is telling. So the most frequent question is, so I have a microservice. So all these microservices can have a common database or what? So each and every microservice should have its own database. If you're using a common database, then what is the purpose of going for microservice? Right?
Yes.
So, and generally the preferable, whenever you're developing a microservice, the preferable database is MongoDB. The reason for that is, why are you going for a microservice? You should be, the response should be very fast, correct?
Yes.
If you're going for a SQL database, like whenever structured query language, so those are not, MongoDB, it does not have indexes, does not have tables, does not have columns, correct? It stores the data in the form of JSON object. So retrieval, see, whenever you want, if you are going for a YouTube, or if you are going for a Google search, or any search mechanism, Amazon, Flipkart, Swiggy, or anywhere you are doing a search, what do you think? You get a response very fast or very, does it take time?
Very fast.
It should come very fast. If you are using a normal standard SQL database like Oracle and MySQL, so it takes the data. The query execution time will take time because those are what you call SQL databases. So it has to be, data will be stored in the manner of indexes, and it will, retrieval time will be fast. But if you are using a MongoDB, so the retrieval time will be very less, because MongoDB does not have a tables, columns. It does not follow all of those. It stores the data in the form of a template or JSON object. So whenever, so generally the preferable is for my microservices, we use a MongoDB or NoSQL database. Not only MongoDB. MongoDB is very much famous, but there are some other NoSQL databases also called Cassandra. Let me show you. NoSQL. Microservice will use NoSQL DB. Okay, this is example MongoDB, Snowflake, Cassandra. Okay, this Cassandra and Snowflake are cloud databases. That means you don't need to download, like you can do it, but this will be provided by in the cloud itself directly. Even MongoDB has a cloud version also. Okay.
Sir,
Any
I think
question?
Snowflake uses SQL.
Yeah. So even it's a cloud database, right? You don't need to worry about installation and all, right? Automatically the Snowflake is installed and then it will give you that, right? I do not know what internally it uses. Snowflake is a NoSQL DB to my knowledge, but I may be wrong.
Actually, sir, I have worked, I did one POC on that, so that's why.
Okay, might
It
be. Okay.
uses SQL queries.
Okay, then. Okay, you can remove that. So I read somewhere that Snowflake, I do not have expertise on this one, but I heard somewhere that Snowflake is a cloud database,
Cloud
and then it's a
database.
NoSQL. Yeah,
Yes, sir.
might be it is a cloud, but it is a SQL. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So any
So,
questions?
Karthik, main challenge in this multiple databases using is data consistency maintenance. Are there
Yes.
any design patterns which will guide, which will have a guidelines for that in this one? Microservices?
Design part. I could not understand your question.
Are there any design patterns which will address that issues?
Which issue?
See, when we use multiple databases, the data inconsistency might happen, right? So if
So you
some
have to,
service goes,
yeah, you have to. So that means whenever you're traversing from going from one service to another service, if it is failing in the last service, the before services, you have to revert the data, correct? Is that your question?
I mean, when you are 5-6 databases in between something failed. So
So
earlier,
the
all
previous data has to
data
be
will
rolled
process
back.
in-
Yeah. So in order to do that, you have to use the event-driven architecture. Event-driven architecture means, so what happens is that is nothing but a how to handle a transaction in a microservice. The question that you have asked is, can be asked in the interview like how to handle transaction management in microservice. Okay. So there are some design patterns like out of one of this is Saga pattern, which will come in upcoming classes. So there are some you can do with a Kafka also. Whenever you are pushing a request is going to another microservice, right? What happened? You can you can send a message, and then from the other service, whenever it is successful, no problem. Whenever it is failure, you trigger a message again. So when that message is triggered, you have to roll back it. So you have to do it in a event-driven architecture manner.
So when you in real-time projects, when they do they follow that one? Or
Yes. Some people will follow event-driven architecture. Some people will follow Saga pattern.
Okay.
Sir, I think Spring provided address transactional annotation, in which
So
there is
that,
isolation and propagation.
So, but that works only for monolithic application, not for microservice application.
Okay, sir. Got it.
So, see, yes, if you are using, the transaction, iterate transaction annotation, what it will do in that Spring container, only it will work, correct? But whenever you're using a REST template, what are you doing? You are sending the request to another application, right? Another Spring application. So how
Yes.
so the transaction, iterate transaction will not work. That's a problem. That will only work for the monolithic application, like inside one microservice. So the question that is asked is here service A. This is one microservice. From here, the request is going to B. From here, it went to C. Now, whenever it is going here, it has updated some data in the database, its own database. Here also, it is updated some data. Here, it is failed. Then, in order to have the consistency, can I say that you have to roll back these two? Correct? So, at this time, iterate transaction will not work because iterate transaction will work only inside a Spring application, but your request is going across the Spring applications, right? Now, iterate transaction will work. For example, in the Spring application A, I'm inserting into the database. In the database means I'm inserting into a table called employee, and then I'm inserting into a department, and I'm inserting into a some login table. Okay. Now, whenever I'm inserting into a login table, if the transaction is failed, iterate enable and transaction will revert the transaction into these tables, as long as these three tables are in single database, correct? Now, whenever you're going for another microservice, this is a different database. So this iterate transactional will not revert. Hope you understand.
Sir, suppose we take one condition, like as you said, A service is storing some data in DB and then calling the B microservice. Okay.
Yes.
So suppose the B microservice when called, then it will return something. Okay. It will return some response. Suppose we can check here if B microservice is returning some response or not. If it is not returning, then we can roll back that for a particular transaction A service.
Yes, that is what event-driven architecture, right?
Okay.
That means you are triggering some message from B service. Then you are doing the reverting, correct?
Okay.
So, but the requests are asynchronous, right?
Yes.
So
right.
that's the reason whenever there is a failure will happen, you will trigger a message to the MQ. Based on this message, the data will be driven back.
Okay.
So that is a event-driven architecture. I just wanted to tell you that iterate transactional will not work here. Hope you understand that question. Answer?
Yes, sir. Got it.
Yeah. Every transaction will be in a single Spring application, not across the Spring application. Okay. Any questions?
What is the resolution for this?
What for transaction management?
Yeah.
So that is what event-driven architecture. You have to follow the event-driven architecture. So whenever there is a failure, you can whenever there is a failure, they'll put a message into a MQ. You can use an active MQ or Rabbit MQ or Kafka. So to this, you will put a message or you will put a topic, and then based on this topic, the other transaction has to roll back it. So these A and B will be like a listeners, and this will be like a publisher, producer and consumer.
Okay.
Okay. So tomorrow we are going to see the API gateway, guys.
Sir, I have one question, sir.
Yeah.
In a real-time project, somewhere in demo project, why we use implement serializable? Sir?
Because if you're not using your see, what is your UI? It's a HTML. It's a different layer, and you're going back to the backend, correct? How the data has to be transferred between, see, what is the use of serialization? Convert the object into a series of bytes and transfer over the network, correct? Now, between the UI and the backend, who is doing that? Your Spring server, whatever the Tomcat server is a medium which is connecting those two, correct? These two are networks. So if you want to transfer the data, then how can you do? You have to implement the serializable. So that's the reason all the Pojo classes or all the setter getters, all the classes which are having a setter getters will implement the serializable, because you want to throw the data back to the another layer.
Yeah, but in current example, we have not used, right?
So here it's a different application, right? Say it's not a different layer. Directly I have sent an object, right? See here, if you look at here from the service, so here directly I'm calling a method, right? A get for object, it is returning the employee. But here, this employee is getting converted into a REST endpoint only. I'm just giving you the data, right? Hope you understand what I'm meant by that.
No, sir.
So if it is a UI or some backend, then you have to use it.
Otherwise, no.
Yeah. Yes, as simple as that.
Okay.
Any other questions, anyone? I will, do you guys will try on your own, or shall I share the code?
You share the code and we also try.
Yeah. So the work for today is implement the database for A service and service B, and try to do some different REST endpoint calls. Okay. So that's the work for you guys. And tomorrow we'll see the API gateway. So that will be more interesting, guys. Okay.
Sure.
Yes.
I hope you are able to follow me, right? This is very important, the service microservice patterns.
Yes, sir.
What about others?
Yes, Karthik, we are getting it.
Yes, sir.
So fine. If no question, that's all for today, guys. And someone asking me in the question in the starting, right? You can, the Nilesh Sanket, right?
Yeah, sir, no worries, sir. Actually, I will find a solution for it, because even if I tell you the problem, you will not get it.
Okay.
Because I also not got that point particular.
So so okay, let me stop the recording.